OP's father wants to have a relationship with her again. She responds with a detailed PowerPoint presentation explaining exactly why he will never be forgiven. Am I wrong for responding to my father's request for a relationship with a detailed PowerPoint on why he will never be forgiven? If I'm in the wrong here, I'll own it. I'm not sorry, but it would be good to know because the rest of my family thinks I went too far. My 24F mom died when I was 7 from leukemia. I have very few memories of her from before she was sick, and I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her in her last year. But she was an artist, and until she couldn't anymore, she would make me little collages when she was in the hospital, with drawings and photos and messages for me. My grandmother put them all in a book for me after she passed away. I wanted to be like my mom, and my counselor thought it would help. So I started a journal where I would do kind of a similar thing, and I've done at least 1 page a week all these years ever since my mom passed away, or when I miss her or have something hard going on. So I have kind of a unique record of my mental state over the past 16 years. My father remarried when I was 9. My stepmother leaned really hard into the "I'm your mom now," and my father didn't stop her. It improved when they had my half-brother because she basically forgot about me then. Unfortunately, he got cancer when he was 3, and I pretty much ceased to exist for my father. He was either working or gone with my brother, and I spent all my teen years mostly at home alone, or with my grandparents. The mantra was that my brother needed to be the focus because he might pass away, so I needed to not be selfish since I was healthy. I stopped trying to talk to him when I was 16, and it was a dark time. I moved out when I was 18 and cut them off completely. My grandparents let me know that my brother passed away a couple of years ago, but respected my desire to remain NC with my father. He recently reached out to them because he wants to see me and talk. I went through my old journals and made him a PowerPoint with images of the entries where I had talked about being frustrated and feeling abandoned and unwanted, with some literal quotes of things my dad had said to me during arguments, even the really dark stuff from when I was seriously depressed. Then I ended it with a photo of one of my mom's collages where she had written, "Remember that your dad and I are always here for you." And I wrote, "You failed, go away," underneath. I felt like him being able to see it from my literal perspective would communicate why I don't want him back better than I could. Evidently, it worked, but a little too well, because I've been bombarded by family telling me that it's understandable that I don't want to see him, but what I sent gutted him, and he's completely fallen apart after reading through it and was unnecessarily cruel. Maybe it was. I know my bar for that is kind of weird sometimes, so am I in the wrong? Edit. A couple of follow-up notes, since it came up in the comments. 1. I loved my brother. I don't resent him. He was a good kid and I wish he was still with us. None of this is his fault. To me, it is completely my father's and, to a lesser extent, stepmother's. The parents prevented me from spending time with him as he got sicker, so I wouldn't have been allowed to be there for him even if I had been able to, which I wasn't towards the end because I was also struggling to stay alive. I have empathy. I understand what my father lost. I was there. I also lost those same people, plus effectively my father. Even so, to me there is no excuse for completely shutting your own kid completely out of your life while also preventing them from getting any kind of help. I understand depression and freezing up. I've been there. And I, still not even being an adult, managed to consider the impact of my behavior on other people. If he was that bad off, he should have given me up to be raised by someone else. My mom's parents asked and he wouldn't agree to let me stay with them full time. I could have had a dad that was able to occasionally tell me he loved me, even if it was just a text message. Alternatively, I could have lived with my grandparents if the people around me had cared about me every day, even if it wasn't my father. I got neither, and every request for help of any kind was met with, "Suck it up." I can empathize with having to function while breaking down inside, but I can't empathize with what he did. 3. I gathered from relatives who have backed off after some hard boundary setting that my father and stepmother split not long ago and are in divorce proceedings, which is why he reached out now and why the rest of the family was upset with how I responded at the time. He wasn't in a good place already. I told them that if they care about him, to encourage him to keep away from me, refuse to pass on any messages, and try to get him into inpatient care or something if they're that worried he's going to do something rash. I don't want anything to do with him, and I've told them that. I don't want to hear about anything that happens after this point. But the rest of his family loves him, so for their sake, I hope he pulls himself together. Comments. You're not wrong. I have a saying. If the truth about your conduct paints you in a bad light, the problem isn't with the truth, it is with your conduct. If the truth hurts your dad, it's his own to deal with, and not on you. Not wrong in the slightest. You told your dad how you felt and it made him have to confront his failures as a parent. It is not your fault he neglected you. He is upset because he knows what you put in the PowerPoint is the reality of how he treated you when you were just a child. Now that the truth is out and you have established no contact, I hope you are able to let go of some of the anger you have at him and know that you did nothing to cause how he treated you. I'm no contact with my dad and have been able to find a lot of peace in the life I've built without him. I hope the same for you. Wow. You're not wrong, but that was brutal. I pictured the "you failed" popping up at the end like when you unalive in Dark Souls. Is your damage so great there's no room for forgiveness? When my kids were little, the 1-year-old went into kidney failure, due, I'm certain, to miscare from a doctor, GP giving his mother a dangerous antibiotic. So his 4-year-old was dumped on mostly friends. No relatives close by. and they were juggling time, as my ex spent most of her time with the sick child and I was at work. He got through it, but I still feel sick with guilt at how he just foisted his brother off. We've only had so many resources, physically, temporarily, and emotionally. Things are mostly okay, but every now and then he slips a crack in. He doesn't blame his brother, though we don't speak much now. Religion. And I don't know how to heal those wounds. We did the best we could at the time, but there was only so much of us to go around when he was in a hospital some distance away. We did our best. There's a lot more to my story, but I'll leave it there. OP, you have the chance to go back to the parent you lost. Some people would give anything for that. Don't leave it until it's too late, even if it's just to confirm what you already feel. If you don't do it, you'll lie awake wondering after he's gone, and regret hurts like hell. There is no manual for parenthood. Not really, because every family's different. You're not wrong, he's not wrong. It's life. It's hard. Sometimes, sadly, when you are young and just wanted him to wrap his arms around you and tell you it would be okay. Really hard. Give him a shot. If he ruins it, you have a clear conscience, or you might have a chance at a future you never imagined. Let the downvotes commence. OP's response. In a word, yes. No apology, no matter how sincere, will change the past or undo the damage done. There's nothing he can ever do that will fix anything. Hell, I have medication and therapy, and I still sometimes have to make a conscious choice to stay alive. What could he possibly even do that wouldn't be laughably inadequate? Any time spent on him would be a one-sided gift to him only. I don't want anything from him. I don't care if he's sorry. I don't think about him unless he's brought to my attention by somebody else. I have nothing to say to him anymore. My life got better when I decided he would already be unalive and gone to me, so I don't see any point exhuming him. I think people who would kill to have their parent back likely had something good in that relationship to hold on to, or something positive to receive, even if it was fraught. I don't. Chances are excellent he'll just find a way to make things worse. He always seems to. As someone on the other side, those little quips from your kid are likely just the tip of an iceberg that goes way deeper than you will ever know and will always be there. Some people can forgive abandonment, but nobody ever forgets what it's like to be powerless and terrified and have it solidly proven to you that you are an expendable loss to the people who control your whole world. You are in a no-win situation. I do get it, and at least you seem to have handled it a bit better than my father since your kid wasn't alone most of the time. So possibly your consequences aren't as severe because the situation wasn't as severe, but you still gambled with a vulnerable person's mental health, and nothing you do will remove the knowledge of that choice from your son. So if guilt and the occasional catty comment are your consequences, I think you got the better end of that deal, to be honest. I wouldn't say you're wrong here, but really, what's the purpose of it? He messed up. He was going through a lot. 2 people he cared for deeply getting cancer and dying is a lot to handle. Not everyone can. Now he's lost his only other child. You really want to carry that bitterness with you your whole life? Reddit can be very dismissive of people, but really, why not repair a family bond? OP's response. The purpose of it is that I never want to hear from him again. Now, if he had any questions, he knows exactly why I don't want him in my life, and it has been reaffirmed to him that he needs to stay away. I don't want to bond with him. He will never be able to fix the situation. I have exactly 0 positive feelings about him, and he is nothing I want or need anymore. He's effectively already gone as far as I'm concerned, and I don't do necromancy. This might be ESH. It all depends on how insistent your dad was. There's a politeness level to consider. Doing a 4+ page repeat of "you were not there for me" is pretty much a punch in the face to someone who was attempting to reconnect. If he wasn't getting the message, he might have needed that. If it was just one request, the last slide alone was clear and still hard-hitting, and the whole presentation I would call excessive force. Regardless, he was wrong for neglecting you, and your feelings are justified. OP's response. Everyone in his family knows I'm no contact and dead serious about it. My mom's side grandparents only passed along the info because they suspected he might try to contact me some other way, and don't want me to be blindsided. Even attempting to reach out is an affront that shows he still has no concept or respect of my feelings. If this keeps him from ever trying to breach no contact again, that is the desired result. I'm perfectly capable of reaching out if I ever change my mind. There's absolutely no need for him to do anything but stay away. I see neglect, perhaps, even preoccupation on other things, but I don't know if you ever expressed how you felt before no contact. Seems unnecessary with the no contact not being explained. OP's response. I tried to talk about it a lot when I was in my early teens, but by the time I was around 15, I knew it didn't do any good. And I was also pretty set on taking myself out by then. And I knew if I talked to anyone about how I was feeling, they would lock me up somewhere. I just stopped talking to anyone at that point. Going no contact without warning was partly a why bother thing, and partly a I know the next unaliving attempt is going to succeed and I don't want to do it here thing. Fortunately, as soon as I cut off my dad, things got less awful, and I was able to get some useful help instead of just being told to deal with it. Edited comment. After reading OP's response in the comments, I changed my judgment to not wrong. OP's response: pretty much ceased to exist is accurate. No birthdays for me, no phone calls when they were gone. Never came to anything for school. No holidays together. Went an entire summer without a word from him one year. He didn't even notice I was gone for a week after I left. When I tried to talk to him about things, I was told to suck it up, basically. So yeah, I have actually been better off if he was also not alive, and I lived full time with my grandparents. At least then I could have pretended that he would have been there if he could have. Info: neglect is a severe issue, but I would like to know if there were any issues beyond that and a bad stepmother. It seems to me he was put into an impossible position when your brother got cancer. OP's response: it's hard to have other issues when someone is never around and barely remembers to talk to you if you're not in trouble. This went on for years. My mom was passing away in the hospital and she still managed to always make sure I knew she loved me. My father couldn't even manage a phone call or a post-it note on my birthday for 5 years. Other problems would have been an improvement. You're not wrong, but it seems he not only shoved you aside, he stole any chance you had to have a relationship with your brother. You don't need that in your life. OP's response: yeah, the terrible thing is I actually loved my brother a lot. He was always a sweet kid even when he was sick. Even if my stepmom sucked, I kind of liked being his big sister, and missing out on time with him is the only thing I actually regret about leaving. I always kind of hoped he would get better and we could reconnect when he was older. Update post: Am I Wrong responded to my father's request for a relationship with a PowerPoint. Update: a bunch of people have been asking for an update, so I'm doing it here instead of on the main sub because the original blew up more than I want to deal with again. I had a talk with my paternal grandparents over Christmas vacation and showed them the PowerPoint. They had no idea things were as bad as they were, or I was actively suicidal at the time, and the accidents I had as a teen were not really accidents. So while they still think it was dangerously harsh under the circumstances, they understand better where I'm coming from. They admit that my father messed up big time, and that the family should have been more involved with me instead of just supporting him and my brother. They said that on the surface they thought I was fine and just having trouble adjusting, but if they had known about the things described in the journal, they would have insisted my father get help. They do want me to reconcile with him, but they understand why it might be too late for that, so they've agreed not to bring him up unless I do first, and not pass on information either way. So that was actually productive. As for my father, I know a lot of people think I'll regret if I don't reconcile, forgive, whatever, but I'm not so sure that's true. I've tried to imagine a conversation with him that wouldn't make things worse, and I can't. Best case scenario, he's sorry and has a good grovel, but honestly, I think hearing that would just make me hate him more. Worst case scenario, nothing has really changed, and I have to walk away before I end up with an assault charge. I also just can't imagine any real benefit or function to having him in my life, so reconnecting feels like a lot of work for no gain. As far as forgiveness, I don't know if it's actually possible. Apathy, maybe. As far as I know, he's alive. I've made it super clear to anyone who tries to give me information about him that I don't request will also get the chop, so I'm probably not going to get any further updates. I'd rather just go back to forgetting he exists. For me, I'm probably as fine as I'm going to be. I have therapy and meds. I can pass for a functional human most of the time. My deal with myself is that I have to at least stick around until my maternal grandparents pass so they don't hurt and I can wrap things up for them. So in the meantime, I'm working on finding another reason. Spite, possibly. My twin sister, while sitting 20 feet away from me, sent me a PM to my account about how I should unalive myself. My mom smirked when I cried. I've been a long-time lurker here and I just need to vent about this because I am incredibly depressed and I feel alone. I went to NC from my family when I first left for college at 18. It lasted 2 years and then it eventually went low contact because I felt guilty about not talking to them. My mom was extremely abusive. She would strangle us, punch us in our backs, etc. You know how it goes. She never physically abused us when our dad was around, but the verbal abuse was enough to make him consider leaving her. Because of this, I have severe depression and PTSD, and I had to go on medical leave from college. My mom begged me to come home for around 2 months before I gave in. I missed having a family, and I am so stupid for being weak and giving in. Since I've been back, my mom has been doing weird things. She'll want me to get drunk with her, but I can't really drink alcohol because I'm on Celexa. When I refuse to drink, she'll give me the silent treatment for a few days. I'm always getting the silent treatment and it hurts. Today my mom asked me if I wanted to just live here and not go back to school. That made no sense. Why would I not want to complete my education? Also, I don't like the constant silent treatment, so I don't like being here. I told her that I'd rather go back to school. She started yelling about how I can just go to the community college here. She started crying about how I didn't love her and my dad told her to stop being dramatic. My sister came in and asked what happened. When my mom told her, she didn't say anything and just went on her laptop. My twin sister is beyond crazy. She once stalked a man for 6 months because the guy told her that she didn't know what she was talking about and should shut up. She found this guy's identity from a few Reddit comments and started physically mailing him things with death threats. She signed his Reddit username to everything. If I knew she had done this, I wouldn't have come here. My sister sent me a PM on Reddit that said, "You dumb B-word. I hate you so much. You are a piece of trash and I'm glad you were assaulted. No one loves you and no one ever will. And how dare you make my mom upset. She has been kind to you and all she wanted was for you to stay here. You are never going to be anything and I know you've been feeling depressed. So stop feeling that way and just unalive yourself. No one will care. Your boyfriend broke up with you last year and I think that just goes to show that no one cares about you. I hope you get assaulted again, but I should stop talking before you call the cops on me like you used to. There's so much I'd love to say to you, but I don't want you to go snitching and I don't want to be a bully. As soon as I saw that, I started crying and I told my dad. He said my sister was out of line, but he can't discipline her if that's how she feels. She's entitled to feel that way. My mom came in and saw me crying and started laughing uncontrollably. I asked my sister why she would do something like this when I've only been nice to her. I sent her like $400 a month when I was in school because my parents are poor. I deleted my account immediately and my sister said that she found my account because she put a tracker on my laptop. My dad only said that it wasn't nice. I have no idea how to cope with this. My cousin said I can move in with them next month when they get back in the country, but that's such a long time away. OP's family seems completely horrible. Every single one of them. His sister's a psychopath, his mother is the same, and his father isn't doing anything to discipline his own daughter. It's unbelievable. And it's insane to me that some people are just awful for the sake of being awful. It really isn't that difficult to be nice. I really don't understand how some people struggle so much with just doing the right thing. Update 1. My hands are shaking, but I am on the way to a domestic violence shelter. I'm very afraid. The family who was going to take me in said that my mom asked them not to get involved and they don't want to make her mad. She didn't even have to know I was there. My entire family has known about the abuse and they tell me it's awful but have never done anything. I look a mess because it all happened fast. An object was thrown at me and nasty things were said. My life was threatened. I didn't even have time to shower yet. I'm at the ER getting my medicine. The DV shelter is paying for it. I'm afraid of getting judged because I actually rolled out of bed and look awful, but I had to escape. The shelter only gives me 30 days, so at my job interview, I think I'll be honest and tell them I really need the job because I'm in a shelter. It's at a cinema, so that would be nice. My friend and her parents lived in my college town and said I could stay there. I just have to buy my ticket. Thanks for the encouragement, and I hope things will be okay for me. Edit. My dad keeps sending me texts telling me to call him immediately. I am not going to do that. I think OP should absolutely not contact their father. Honestly, OP just needs to get out and never look back. Final update. Wow, so it's been nearly 3 years since I posted on this forum, desperate for help. For some reason, these posts just popped into my head after all this time, and rereading them, I just want to hug my former self because I had forgotten how bad things were. I also want to hug all of you for helping me. I wrote down the advice you gave me and I used it. I really did. I may be a little vague to continue to preserve my identity. So here goes the last update to this saga. And it's a happy one. The shelter that I stayed in was very nice and brand new. The staff told me how cramped the other one was, so I'm very lucky that I arrived when I did. After the first day, my nerves relaxed and I could just breathe. There were about 7 other women there and we each had a room with a nice bathroom. I was the youngest there and the other woman gave me advice about life and they even did my makeup for interviews. We each took turns cooking, per the rules, and developed a nice rapport. The staff was so amazing and they also talked to me about life. I felt so safe at this place because of the security. Oh, I almost forgot. A church group came to give quills they had made for us and I still have mine. Sometimes I snuggle with it and think of how far I've come. I love that quill, and I wash it very carefully. We also had group and individual therapy which really helped. I know every DV shelter experience isn't like this, but please don't be afraid to just leave when things get bad. Family abuse counts as domestic violence. I was able to find a job that paid more than the movie theater offered, and I told them that I didn't plan on going back to school in the future. Yes, it was a lie, but there was no way I could afford rent by working at a movie theater. I decided to look for my own place instead of just staying with the friend that offered because I needed stability, and if things got bad, I didn't really have a support net and would have to start over. I had no reason to think things would go bad, but after leaving such a bad situation, I guess nothing felt secure for me. I rented a room and my roommate was never home because he was a truck driver. I didn't feel very comfortable staying with an older man I didn't know, but I had very few options. He was very nice, and because our schedules never aligned, we left each other goodbye notes since we couldn't do it in person. I still have his note. I did go back to school the next semester when my medical leave was over, but not at my original school. I felt like I needed a fresh start. My family knew about the old school anyway, so I applied to different schools. I got into a great school. I told my story of everything I had survived in the essay. When my sister told me that I wasn't going to be anything, she was wrong, and I think she knew she was wrong in her assessment of me. I graduated this year and I have stability that I've never known before. Although I'm a few years older than I wanted to be when I graduated, I realized this sort of thing doesn't even matter, and the medical leave was beneficial. I just got engaged to a lovely man with a lovely family. They always tell me they're my family, and I'm so close with my future mother-in-law. I had food poisoning for the first time a few days ago. My fiance left the house at 2 a.m. to get Pedialyte just to make sure I was hydrated. And when I felt like I was never leaving the bathroom, he told me he was going to make lentil soup for me. I didn't even have to ask or say anything. When I was a kid and vomiting blood, My mom told me to go back to sleep. It feels nice to be treated this way, and sometimes I catch myself saying, you don't have to, when he tries to do something nice to me. Anyway, he has 6 siblings and they're like the siblings I never had. I learned to value myself and put myself first. I wasn't loved as a child, so I do things for myself that I didn't get. No one made me feel special, so I do it myself. I make it a point to buy flowers for myself weekly. A therapist recommended this to me, and it makes a difference. No one cared that I was sick as a child, so I made sure that I rest and relax without disruptions when I'm sick. No one valued my personal time or space, so I have days where I don't even answer my phone and just spend time with myself. Things like that. Thanks again to everyone for helping me. When I made that last update, I was crying and I really didn't think I was going to be okay. I was headed to a shelter with a 30-day stay and I thought there was no way anything beneficial could happen in 30 days. I was very depressed and hopeless, and I had no idea things would have gone in such a positive direction. Narrator's commentary. I'm glad that this story could have a happy ending. OP definitely deserved it. They really do seem like a genuine and friendly person, which is even more impressive when you consider their background. Regardless, I wish OP the best, and I hope they get to live a good life with